following is a presentation of Geekster Media.
Hey there, Wax Packers! Adam coming back at you with another edition of Wax Pack Flashback. And this time we got to get tough. Yo, Joe! Alright, anyway, we're going to be talking about G.I. Joe, Real American Hero official trading cards. This is going to be really great to get into. So, obviously, I was singing the later Deke era theme song, but just like everybody else, I grew up with this version of G.I. Joe. Coming at ya. These boxes, though, I definitely remember from the video store, and when I found one of these a few years back, I was so excited. Interestingly enough, they were later released in a smaller format, but basically almost the same type of box design. And later on, they did and talked about the Deke era, so there were various other releases. Just didn't have quite the same flavor, but I definitely was still watching it back then. Of course, interesting thing about G.I. Joe is that they had a Marvel comic that basically had its own continuity. Larry Hama was really the architect of G.I. Joe. He created all the characters, from their backstories. I think it was more Hasbro that was creating the designs and the toys themselves. And he's like, well, this is what they're all about. This is what, got them to the point where they were joining G.I. Joe. And of course, all those, little information cards that you would get about the characters, that was Larry Hama in addition to writing the comic. But those cards were coming with the action figures, right? And so G.I. Joe action figures were just so awesome. And honestly, I only had like 4 or 5 growing up, but my neighbors and friends, everybody else I knew had bins full of them, had all the vehicles, had the play sets. But whenever I went to my friend Eric's house, I always grabbed his Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow was my guy. He had a jacuzzi. We would set up like this water-based thing in the jacuzzi, and they're fighting in the, there's like a little water features that came out of it. I mean, it was epic battles back in the day with G.I. Joe. So much fun. So I'm curious to see, again, these cards, I'm almost certain I bought a pack or two back in the day, just because of the G.I. Joe mania going into the early 90s. But I think, my recollection is they were more about the comics than they were about the cartoon series or the toys or anything like that. So let's open this up. Let's find out what it was all about. Okay, so here we are with our pack of G.I. Joe official trading cards by Impel from 1991. Of course, G.I. Joe, a real American hero. You got your camouflage pack there. It's a pretty flimsy plastic, as you can see. We see a free G.I. Joe trading card checklist is something you can send away for. Also, there is the official G.I. Joe Premier Edition Collector's Album, which is pretty great. You get a Premier Edition logo and 23 9-card collecting sheets. Oh, I didn't know that they would include the sheets in there for you. That's a pretty good deal. But yeah, so 12 cards is a pretty awesome value, I feel like, when it comes to trading cards. So I'm excited to dig into these. Let's see what's inside. There we go. Okay, it rips pretty easy. All right. First up here, we have Crazy Legs. He's part of the honor roll, they say. So let's check out what is going on here. Okay. So David O. Thomas, my bad. Fort Dodge, Iowa. Okay, so he's a parachute rigger. Crazy Legs originally wanted to be an organist, but wound up joining the Airborne Rangers. Cross-trained as a forward artillery observer, Crazy Legs could dodge and weave under fire like no other. So this is interesting. I don't see them crediting Larry Hama anywhere, but I wonder if that comes up later. Let's check this out as we get deeper into these. All right, so this looks like an actual comic book cover now, so famous battles. This is interesting how they're doing this. Okay, so the Alaskan Pipeline Battle, does it tell you what issue? I don't know. Appeared in issue number 11 of G.I. Joe. Okay. So the Joes went to Alaska to investigate Cobra activity around the Alaskan oil pipeline. Destro at the very bottom here, it says Destro was present at the station and Doc struggled with him, grabbing the toxin antidote. Destro left thinking he had been successful. Doc then traded a false antidote to the infected cobras to return the plutonium. So we got plutonium, we got poison, we got antidotes. There's a lot going on there. Okay. Ooh, now a Cobra Viper. Okay. As I recall, these are basically the stormtroopers, right, of the G.I. Joe universe. Let's see. So Vipers are driven by greed and a thirst for power. They're at the bottom of the Cobra ranks and have nowhere to go but up. If you're advancing on a line of these fighters, do yourself a favor. Bring a tank. Tells you all their various weapons that they're known for using. Multi-layer body armor and wraparound acrylic composite helmets. So that's what's going on with that headgear right there, alright? Ooh, here we go. So we have another awesome cover here where it looks like, woo, somebody's taking some damage on the Joe side, even Snake Eyes. Okay. Get back here, Tomax. Yeah, so Tomax and Zaymot, the twins, definitely remember them. Appeared in issue number 41. The first assault of New Cobra Island. All right. Cobra tricked the Joes into setting off a fault line at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico with a large explosion. The result was the emergence of a volcanic island from the sea. Ooh, so this is pretty great. But yeah, that art is just fantastic on those covers. Oh, G.I. Joe Special Mission. So I was in this shop last year that I was digging around, and they had a lot of old G.I. Joe issues. I could have had almost the entire collection, but it just wasn't for me. I was sending it off to different friends, though, but the Special Missions were in there, too. So Mangler appeared in issue number 13. Dusty, Outback, Lightfoot, and Mangler were sent to Trucial Abysmia on a top-secret mission. They were to destroy a cache of American weapons left behind by the previous government of Abysmia. Abysmia! That is a great name. I'm assuming that's a fake country name. I've never heard such a thing. But Washout. Okay. But Dusty was another favorite of mine from the figures, because I remember he came with his coyote or whatever, his dog. All right, what do we have here? A Sky Creeper. Man, Sky Creeper. This is pretty great. Let's see what's going on here. File name is classified. Okay, but lightweight bulletproof glider with nose-mounted double-barreled machine gun. Sky Creeper started his flying career jumping off garages with sheets and broomsticks strapped to his arms. Several broken bones later, he was jumping off 1,000-foot cliffs in a homemade glider and robbing clifftop apartments for some quick, easy cash. Okay, so I don't know. It seems like that's a dangerous thing to put on there, to jump off your garage with sheets and broomsticks. But they're like, but he broke some bones, so, kids, don't do this at home. If you want to be like Sky Creeper, which I don't know that anybody did. Oh, there's Gung Ho. Okay, so definitely all marined out there. Let's see what this is about. So, Etienne R. Lafitte. Yes, he's from Louisiana. Jungle warfare training instructor, part of the U.S. Marine Corps. The Cajun Gung Ho was born and raised in the swampy Louisiana bayou. As tough as any gator, Gung Ho loves a good brawl, so he joined the Marines. Yeah, there you go. So, Gung Ho, one of the iconic characters for sure. Ooh, so now we're getting into some vehicles. The Tomahawk. Nice paint job there. Let's see what they say. So, a certified ground ordnance neutralizer and all-weather air-sea rescue craft, the Tomahawk is G.I. Joe's primary recon and airstrike flyer. Put it on the line and it cuts through Crover's army like Swiss cheese, one hole at a time. Available at a Toys R Us near you. That's what all of these should be saying. Ooh, look what we have here. There's my guy. So we have, well, I should say, here is everybody else's guy. Everybody loves Snake Eyes, right? The most unusual G.I. Joe story ever. I'm pretty sure this is the silent issue where there's actually no dialogue. But yeah, there's my guy. Storm Shadow. I saw him on the back as I was grabbing the card. Appeared in issue number 21. So a solo assault on Destro's Citadel. The Cobra Ninja Storm Shadow captured Scarlet while she was skydiving. He brought her to Cobra Commander at Destro's Citadel, and she was placed in a dungeon. However, Snake Eyes, on a solo mission, parachuted into the Citadel. In the dungeon, Scarlet picked the lock on her chains and slipped out after confronting Storm Shadow. Snake Eyes took on a platoon of cobras and a pack of ninjas, still trying to locate Scarlet. Scarlet commandeered a cobra claw flying wing and found Snake Eyes in combat with Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow hurled his sword at Scarlet, but Snake Eyes caught the blade with his hands. Yeah, that's why everybody loves their Storm Shadow. More to come here. We are not done yet. We have the Desert Scorpion. Looks like he's part of the Foreign Legion there with that little head drape. Okay, so a hostile environment detachment is his special training. Officers of the Cobra Army become scorpions when they mess up in the field and refuse to follow orders. They're unmotivated, stubborn malcontents with a knack for destroying everything they come in contact with. That's pretty funny. So basically they send you to the desert if you don't behave. That's pretty great. All right, let's check out here another special missions card. So there's another adventure going with their attack vehicle. So this is Slipstream, appeared in issue number 3, Burnout. Stalker, Leatherneck, Slipstream, and Crankcase were sent to the war-torn Middle East to rendezvous with the mercenary pilot Deke. Not Duke, this one's Deke. Deke provided them with the locations of Colonel Sharif's surface-to-air missile sites, but was later captured by Sharif. Yeah, okay. So, Middle East adventure. And our last card here, Pathfinder. Look at that gear, man. Look at that backpack. Look at everything. I love that idea right there. That is so cool looking. All right, let's see here. So, William V. Lanotti, I guess. Okay. So, Jungle Assault Specialist, Jungle and Guerrilla Warfare. So he belongs out there in the jungle. When Pathfinder moves through the jungle in his fatigues, he moves like a shadow in the night. He sweeps the basic floor for booby traps and landmines with his ULF underbrush cutter, its depth discriminator gauge reading every inch of the ground around him. And just in case he runs into cobras, his 30 caliber Browning machine guns are always ready to fire. Wow, okay, so that's why I see that blade now there that cuts through everything, and then he's got his gun in the other hand. Wow, this guy, he is equipped. All right, well, let's find out which of these Joes impressed me most. Yo, Joe, indeed. Yes. So much information on there. They do not skimp on the stats and details in the G.I. Joe universe. I'll tell you that much. If you love the military, then you're going to really get a lot out of those cards. The rest of us might be kind of scratching our heads like, I think I know what this means. But as far as my favorite card in this set, I do have to go with this particular issue because it's so infamous in comic book circles, this silent issue of G.I. Joe. And so, of course, it also featured my favorite guy, Storm Shadow, right? So, yeah, definitely I got to go with that card, put that in the folder as we continue our collection. I do want to say one more thing, is G.I. Joe the movie, which I did not address in the intro, of course, was huge, like, for all of us growing up. Like, I remember my friend having the Globulus, who was like this worm character, worm body, human top, who was voiced by Burgess Meredith. And I was just like, what is this? He's like, it's in the movie. So then, actually, I saw it a little bit late. I think I was like 11 or something when I finally saw it I was at a daycare for one day. I was visiting my sister and her daughter went to daycare and I had to go there while she ran some errands. I don't know what was going on, but I watched G.I. Joe the movie for the first time there and was like, what? And then years and years later, there was, this recent anniversary screening in theaters. And so I took my kids to go see this. And apparently there are no G.I. Joe fans in my town because we literally had the entire theater to ourselves. So my kids are running around having adventures. I brought some action figures for them to play with and other things. But we had a private screening of G.I. Joe the movie. It was just a fantastic memory. But anyway, thank you so much for checking out this edition of Wax Pack Flashback. More to come indeed. So just stay subscribed here. And of course, if you want to get over to theretronetwork.com, the home of Geekster, there's a bunch of awesome content over there to tickle your nostalgia bone, just like these cards likely did. Plenty of discussion of G.I. Joe over there as well. There are fans, I'll tell you that much. So anyway, be sure to also check out at TRN Social on, the various social media platforms, because there's a lot of fun stuff going on in this month of March. There is Comic Book Month, where you can actually win a vintage comic book prize pack by sharing your favorites in the world of comics, whether it's how you got into comics and why comic books became a favorite pastime and form of entertainment, or just if you have a collection of comic book merchandise you want to share. However you want to do it, you can enter to win this month. Also, they're doing a Munch Madness instead of March Madness bracket, where they're comparing all these different retro snacks and foods and fast food menu items, things like that. So you can check that out on social media as well. But anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up about some more nostalgic fun, and we'll be back soon. Check you later.
This has been a presentation of Geekster Media.